Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Despite having just finished my series with this zombie character, I thought to do a bonus video, and I want to show you how to recreate this render using Octane Render standalone version, because I figured probably not many people uses Octane Render for Maya plugin. So Octane Render standalone doesn't require any other application. You can go to the Otoy website, and if you go here, it says Octane Render. You can click here, and here there's a demo version, which is, I believe, fully functional. The only limitation is the resolution, and you're gonna get some watermark on your render. But in terms of feature, I think it's complete. So if you want to try out Octane Render standalone, you go here on the Otoy website and download the demo. And today I'm gonna do a video that is gonna show you how to recreate the same render that I've done here in Maya inside Octane standalone. So before we start, we want to export all our objects, and Octane standalone currently supports OBJ and Alembic. So for the geometry, we are gonna export everything in OBJ, and then for the hair and beard and eyelash and eyebrows and things like that, basically everything that we made with Ornatrix for Maya, all of these items will be exported as Alembic, because Octane Render standalone actually can render properly the hair using its own proprietary hair primitive. So let's get started, and let's start with exporting our head. So export selection, and I'm gonna create a inside my Octane. Actually, I already created a standalone subfolder, and we're gonna export here. So this is gonna be our head. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same with the skull. So I'm gonna select both these two objects, and I'm gonna press export selection, and this is gonna be skull, and I'm gonna hide it by pressing Ctrl H. And then I'm gonna do the same with the outside eyes. If I press G again, G will redo the last command, which was export selection. So by pressing G, I have this dialog back up. So these are gonna be eyes out, and hide this. And then I'm gonna press G again, and these are gonna be eyes in. Alright, and before exporting these objects, I'm gonna show you how to change the Ornatrix parameters in order to be able to export these guys. Also, I have this object here. Let's see, this guy here and here, that I've added on the beard to simulate some nasty damage and blood that was stuck on the beard. So again, this is gonna be let's call this beard blood. Alright, now these three objects, this box here, this box here, and this plane here, they were all black, just completely black. So I'm gonna export this as one object. So these are gonna be black boxes. And now this light here, and this light here, and this light here, they're all lights, the planes that I use to turn into lights, emissive with emissive materials, but I want them to be I want them to have a separate material applied. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna export them singularly. So this is gonna be light front, and this is gonna be light side, so I know what I'm having, and this is gonna be light back. Okay, now before we export our hair, we need to do a little adjustment in our stack. So let's open up all our Ornatrix nodes here, and I believe there's one down there. So let's open up the stack, and what we need to do to properly export this as Alembic, obviously we could export this as OBJ, but in order for Octane to recognize this as hair, we need to remove this strands for what's it called, mesh from strand node. So we're going to select it and delete it, and now we're going to select the top node here, and we're going to go to export selection, and instead of OBJ we're going to find Ornatrix Alembic, okay, and select this one. And just for not getting confused, let's keep the same naming convention here. So this is OX Air System 7, let's call it the same, Air System 7. Now before we press export selection, there's one important thing that we need to do. Since Alembic does support animations, we need to specify which frame we want to export. If you remember, we were at frame 20 because at frame 0 our head was not posed. We made the pose at frame 20. So we're gonna have to go here and set start and end of frame 20 and leave the other options like this. And now we can click export selection, and there's 1 second that dialog. Alright, so let's repeat the same thing for all the others. So delete this guy here, select the top node, export selection, and this is called system 6. So again, let's rename this to 6. The exporter remembers the last settings, so that's good. So let's go here, do the same, delete this guy, select here, export selection. This one is called hair system 4. So 4, export selection. Let's do the same here. Select this guy, delete it, and export selection. This one is called 5. So again, 5. And let's do the same for these remaining ones. This guy, export selection. This is called system 3, so let's name it 3. Alright, let's select system 2 as well. Export selection. This is gonna be 2. And system 1. Here you go. Export selection. System 1. Alright, and last one is the shirt hair, like here. So let's get rid of this guy. Again, top node, file, export selection, and this is system 9. Alright. Okay, great. So that's it for these for the hair. We don't need to do anything else. And now we can export our remaining objects. So let's select the shirt here, and I'm just gonna go here, export selection, and let's go back to OBJ, and this is gonna be the shirt. Alright, and last we need to export is this shirt damage object here. There it is. File, export selection, and this is going to be a shirt damage. Okay, great. So we have exported everything, all our objects. So now we are ready to go back to Octane Standalone and start our render. Alright, so this is Octane Standalone interface. Before we start, I'd like to show off a little bit something that I'm kind of proud of. The splash screen of Octane Render Standalone is an image that I've made a couple of years ago for a VR contest, and the folks at Otoy liked it, and they asked me if they could use it for the splash screen. So obviously I said yes. It's a huge honor to be featured like this, so I'm very proud of this, and I just wanted to share this information with you. Although they've been using this image since quite a while now, so I'm pretty sure that next version this will be gone, but that's fine. So let's go back here to Octane Render Standalone and let's get started. Before we start import our geometry, there's one important thing that we need to do. And so first of all, let's get rid of this node. This is just for compatibility reason. We need to go to File and Preferences, and here in the import preferences, let's open OBJ import. We need to make sure that our unit is the same as the unit in Maya. So instead of centimeter, I'm gonna have to set to meters, and I'm gonna do the same for alembic, because otherwise, and click OK, because otherwise when I import my object, they're gonna be very small, and since Octane is a physically based render, the parameters are not, if you copy and paste the parameters from Maya to the standalone, if the scale is different, we are not going to get the same result. So that's something very important to keep in mind. Alright, so let's get started. In here, this is the folder when I exported all my OBJs as well as my alembic files. And let's start by just import a couple of objects. So let's start with the head and the skull. So I'm going to select these two guys and I'm going to drag it in here. So here they are. There is one node for the skull and one node for the head. In here nothing happens, and that's because to start the rendering we're going to need to add a render target node. So in the empty space you just right click, and from this list, the bottom of the list, it says render target. So as soon as we click the render target, you can see that Octane starts rendering, but obviously there is nothing in here, and that's because nothing is connected yet. So in order to connect these two guys here, we can connect to the input only one node. So for example, if I drag this guy here and zoom out, I'm gonna scroll my mouse to find my guy here. There it is. You can see that there is the head, but if I try to connect the skull obj as well. It's going to be displayed, but you can see that this node is unchecked, and that's because the render target only accepts one node. So to render two or more objects, the way to do it is right click here, and from the geometry tab we're going to select group. This will create a group node. Now if I plug this guy here and this guy here, and then the output I'm going to plug it in here, you can see I have both my object. It might be slightly difficult to see, but here's the skull and here's the face. Alright, so that's the way of doing it. And by default the geometry group has only two input, but from here, from the node inspector here, I can add as many input as I want. As you can see, all the input nodes here have increased, as well as I can remove them if I don't need them. So let's focus for now on these two objects, and let's try to apply some material. So the way we're gonna do that, let's scroll down and right click. I'm gonna go into material. Now if you remember, our head material was using a mix material in Maya, so let's create a mix material node, and also again right click. Let's go back to materials. Let's create one diffuse materials and one glossy material. So these two materials are gonna compose our skin material, as well as a displacement node that we're gonna plug in the mix material node as well. So with these three nodes here, let's go and start plugging them in. So first diffuse, glossy, and displacement, and then I'm gonna click here and connect that to my head. Now obviously for now nothing seems to happen, and that's because these materials they have the default parameters. They're all white and there's nothing plugged in the displacement. So let's fix that. First of all, let's focus on this diffuse material, and by the way, it's good practice to rename the materials so we don't get confused. So if I go here in the inspector node, if I double click, I can edit the name. So I'm gonna call this SSS. Alright, and now this node is called SSS. Before we can start, well, for now we can start changing this material here, and as you can see, this is black and this is gray, and the reason is because the mix material by default is at 0.5, which means that it's blending 50% this black material and 50% this gray white material. So if I set this to 1, as you can see now, this is completely black, and means that we are seeing 100% this material here. If I move it back to 0, we are seeing this white glossy material. And just to make it a little bit easier to understand, I can just assign some color, just we know that which material we are seeing. So this is green, and let's go back to this one for now. So if we go now and we select this material, before we start modifying this to make it into a subsurface scattering material, we need to change our kernel render mode, because by default Octane starts in direct lighting, which is good for preview, but does not support subsurface scattering as well as GI and other goodness. So we click here on our render target node, and if we click on this gear icon, these are the options for this kernel node. As you can see on the top here is saying direct lighting, so just click here and select path tracing. So we're going to do the same node as the one we were using in Maya. And let's change a couple of parameters here. So max samples for now, let's set to 1000. Caustic blur, I'm going to set it to 1, as well as GI clamp. These two parameters set to 1 will ensure that for this scene we are going to get a little bit faster cleanup of the noise. And let's go here and activate adaptive sampling. What this does, Octane is going to look at the image, and an algorithm is going to find the areas where most of the noise remains, and it's going to dedicate more computing power to solve those areas rather than the areas where there is no noise. So this is a very good, a very useful feature. So let's start doing something to our subsurface scatter material. So first of all, we're going to need a transmission node. So I'm going to click here and click on grayscale color, and I'm going to set this to white. So this is what we get. And now let's go to medium, and let's plug in a scattering medium. There we go. Alright, so I've got the same parameters as the one in Maya. So let's see, let's get the same exact color so we don't get confused. I'm gonna copy paste basically the parameters from here, so we're gonna get hopefully the same exact results. So as you can see, these are the same options that I have in the standalone. It's only that the interface is a bit different. So if I click here, this was the color that we choose for our light absorption. So if I click here, so this is RGB. Make sure that you are in RGB 0 to 1, and the color space needs to be the display space. Okay, I believe. So let's see if that's correct. So we're gonna copy these values. So copy here and to our absorption. So RGB is gonna be this value, then G is gonna be this value here, and this value is gonna be 1. So hopefully we got the same color, so it looks like it. And uncheck invert absorption, and let's see what other parameters did we have. So let's go back here. So scattering was 0.025 and density was 50. So let's do the same. So density was 50, and scattering, now I have a color here, so I need to change this to grayscale color, and this was 0.025, and this is what we should have had. Hopefully this is going to be correct. Now another thing that you might notice is that we actually subdivided this object in the properties. So if I go back in Maya and I move back to here, you can, in the Octane attributes, you can see that open subdiv level is 1 instead of 0. So let's reproduce that in here. So we're going to select our head OBJ, and you see this wrench icon here. You can click it, and these are the options for this specific object. So in here, the subdivision level by default is 0. We're going to change this to 1 and click OK. And now, as you can see, this is much smoother, and I have much less artifacts going on. So that's great. So let's plug in the displacement. So let's right click here, and from texture I'm going to load an RGB image, and from my list, there we go, zombie displacement, and load in this texture. So I'm going to plug this texture right here in the texture node, and in here we need to set a few parameters. So again, if you remember, the mid level needs to be 0.5 because this comes from ZBrush. The level of detail is the resolution, so we're going to set it to 4K. And if you remember, this map was set to 1. So let's do that, and that's our displacement applied. You can see I've got all these details here going on, and that's great. So let's actually yeah, okay, no, that's great. Let's save this scene for now. So save as, and I'm gonna call this zombie. I'm already in my standalone subfolder, so click save, and let's move back this guy to 0. So this is our glossy material that we have before. It looks green. So let's start making this correctly. So actually here there's the color, but I don't really need it because we need to import our textures for this guy. So right click, I'm gonna go texture, RGB image, and so I'm gonna import the albedo PSD that we did before, and then do the same for the roughness. Okay, and once more for the specular. Okay, you can actually preview these texture if you select, for example, the albedo. If you move up here, you see this eye icon. If you click here, it's gonna show a preview of this texture here. So the same we can do here for roughness. Click the eye, and here's the roughness, and specular. Click here, and here's our specular. So let's plug this in. So I'm gonna set this to black 1 second just to show you what I'm doing. So if I zoom in very close, you can see at the moment the specular is uniform. So let's plug the specular first. So I'm going to drag specular on my specular slot. As you can see, when you move the cursor over these nodes, these dots, it tells you what slot that is. So I'm going to move the specular in the specular slot, and as soon as I plug it in, you can see here these have changed. You can see all these details here that they are in my specular texture, and so this will add some detail, extra detail in the specularity. And now let's plug in our roughness. So there's a roughness slot there, and it might be a little bit difficult to see, but the roughness have changed in the skin part here. This became a little bit less shiny compared to this area. And last but not least, I'm gonna plug in my albedo texture. So these are my 3 texture applied, and now what we want to do here, we go back to mix material and set the amount to 0.5, which I believe it was the correct parameter in Maya. We can go here and check, if I select here my head, and yes, the amount was 0.5, so that's the same here. And this is what we got so far. So far so good. And now you can see that the more nodes we add, the node graph editor started becoming more and more complex. So there are many ways that you can organize your work here, especially when you start plugging many nodes. So one way, if you just click this icon here, this will automatically rearrange these nodes in a neat way. However, you might want to be able to group things together, so we can do that. So for example, let's say that all this node and as well as the head, we want all this node to be grouped together, so we can do that by right click and group items. So now all our nodes are inside here, and it's a little bit, if I click here, it's much cleaner. And let's rename this. This is gonna be head node, and to see what's inside, you just double click it, and here it is. You can see that here now I have my scene tab and my head tab, so I can close this if I don't need it, or double click it to reopen it at any time. So here's all my materials. So that's a very neat and clean way to keep your scene clean and organized. So let's continue. So let's go with our skull, and the skull had only a, if I remember correctly, only had a glossy material applied. So let's plug this in, and as you can see, if I change the color here, it's changing in real time. So as well, same as the head, let's plug in a displacement node, and again let's import texture RGB image, and let's import our skull displacement. So let's plug this into the texture node, and then again mid-level is 0.5, 4K, and let's set the height to 1 as well, and I'm gonna plug this back into the displacement, and here it is. So let's get rid of this color here, set it to black for example, and now let's import the other textures. So let's go to texture RGB image. So I've got my skull PSD, which I believe it's the albedo, so I'm gonna plug it in the diffuse slot here, and I'm not sure if I had other texture. Oh yes, I have the roughness, so I'm gonna select the roughness and plug it into the roughness slot. So here I have it. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so our zombie is already looking pretty nice. So let's save here. One thing that I forgot to do was to set up the render target post-process. So I'm gonna click here on the imager, and by default, same as Maya, Octane has a film response here, so I don't want that. I want linear response, and then I'm gonna change the gamma to 1, from 1 to 2.2. Alright, that's more like it. So this is the correct settings for a linear image, so it doesn't have any color correction applied. Okay, so now let's select this guy here and group him as well, and this is gonna be our skull group, and click here. So as you can see, with only this node, we have our scene working in our render viewport, which is great. So I'm gonna save this and let's continue. So let's import some other objects. So let's select the eyes in and eyes out. So let's drag these two guys here and let's plug them in. So first I'm gonna go with eyes in, and actually I'm gonna show you one more thing. I'm gonna make another group here, and I'm gonna plug both the eyes in this group here, and I'm gonna plug this here. So in this group we're gonna have both the eyes, which it's pretty neat. And but for now, let's focus on the eyes inside. So let's unplug this guy for now, so I can just see the eyes inside geometry, which is here, as you can see. There it is. And let's make a material. So the inside eye only had a diffuse material, so plug this in, and let's import the texture, which is the same image as before, which is the zombie albedo. When you import the texture which is already used, obviously Octane does not load them twice. It's already in memory, so no worries about that. So here it is, and I believe that inside texture, the inside material, that's all it had. So now let's plug the eyes out, and this one was a specular material. So right click, go to materials and specular. So here it is. So if I plug the specular material, as you can see, they become transparent, and I get all the reflections. So let's make the same parameters as Maya. So reflection is white, transmission is white. I believe I had a little bit of roughness. Let me check just to be sure. So if I select this guy here, so actually the transmission was 0.75. Okay, so let's do the same. Let's change this to grayscale color and 0.75. Okay, the index is 145. That's the same. And I also had this normal map here. So in the normal map, we're gonna go and RGB image, and we had the I believe it was called eyes normal. Okay, which is the one that contained the veins. Let's see if I can zoom in and can see the veins somehow in the reflection. There you go. You can see that there is a little bit of vein going on in the reflection. And let's go back here. Let's also click on fake shadow, and I believe that's it. Roughness was 0.02, so 0.02, and that's it. Here are our eyes, very creepy eyes. Here they are. So that should do. And all right, so again, let me zoom out here a little bit, and I'm gonna select all this node and create group, and this is gonna be called eyes. Alright, and click here. So this is a very again, very nice way. I really like this grouping thing from the nodes that you can do in the standalone. So let's continue, and next we're gonna import let's import the hair. Now for the hair, actually let's import the shirt, which is the last obj. Let's get shirt damage, and beard blood. So let's drag these 3 obj in, and I'm gonna let's keep this guy for later. And again, I'm gonna make another geometry group and plug both the shirt and the shirt damage, and then plug this group into this other group. So here it is. So okay, and let's apply the materials here. So I believe I used a glossy material for the shirt, and so let's drag the texture. So the texture is shirt. I believe I had. Okay, this is okay. Albedo, here it is. I didn't see it. So I'm gonna plug. Let's first check the normal. So if I set this black, oops, I'm applying it to the shirt damage. So I'm gonna unplug this and unplug it to the shirt. As you can see, now it has updated. And in the normal map, let me load normal map here. Here it is. And the normal map goes into the normal slot. So here it is. And the albedo goes into the diffuse. Here it is. And the glossy, I choose a glossy not because I want a glossy shirt, but because I do want a little bit of specularity. So the roughness is going to be 1. So it's going to be basically almost non-reflective. It's just going to reflect some rim light, and it's going to look quite nice. So I can't remember actually what material did I use here. So let me select. I believe it was just a diffuse. I've got a glossy material with a very dark diffuse. So okay, let's do that. So let's go here and let's plug a materials glossy, and let's copy the same color. So let's copy the same here. Oops, it seems like this needs to be set to RGB 0 to 1. And let's see, I think it's display space. So let's copy this here and this here. And last, this here. Alright. And the other parameters, specular is 0, 1. And then I've got roughness of 1. And index 1.3. Yes, the other parameters are still the default, so this should be good. Okay, so let's select all this material and group them. So this is gonna be shirt, and click here to organize and save. So here's my current object, looking pretty good. And now I can finally import my hair. So let's do that. And I'm gonna select all these guys here, and I'm gonna drag them in here. So with the exception of system 9, which is for the shirt, I'm going to move all this guy here and this beer blood as well. And again, I'm gonna make another group like so, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 nodes that I want to plug. I'm gonna plug this in the shirt. I have all this node, 8 nodes that I want to plug in here. So let's add input until we got to 8, like so. And I'm gonna plug these guys in here. So this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the beard blood. Alright. Now I'm gonna plug this group in here, and here are my hair. And I want to point out that these are actually hair segment. This is not the OBJ that we had in Maya. And now you can see that Octane here is saying that I have 72,064 hair segment. That does not mean that I have 72,064 hair. Each hair is made by many segments, so the total of segments of all the hair, it's this number, but that doesn't mean that I have 72,000 hair. That would be quite overkill for this character. So here are my hair, and this is already getting quite messy, so let's group this guy like so. And then I'm gonna double click, and here are my nice laid down nodes. So our hair material was a specular, if I remember correctly. So in order to see the material that we applied, since we removed the geometry from our stack, so this object now doesn't have the same material applied. So the way we can see, if we go to our hypershade, it should be still here somewhere. So let's see what we got. And I believe this was the material. Probably not. So that's okay. That's the beard material, and I probably use it for the hair as well. No, the hair is this one. Okay, so let's use this material reference. So let's use this material as reference. So reflection is about 50%. Alright, let's create our specular material, and this is gonna be hair, and I'm gonna Control C, Control V, and this is gonna be beard, since I used two slightly different settings. So let's do that. We might also want to separate further these guys to have things a little bit more organized. So let's see. So 7 and 6 are the hair. So 6 and 7 are the hair. So we can go here, geometry, group, and plug these two guys, one here and one here, and let's unplug them from there. And these are all the other ones that I used. I believe that I used the same material for hair. Can't remember exactly. I think the hair and the beard and the eyelashes and the eyebrows, they were all using the same material. So I'm just gonna use this for the hair. And let me unplug this real quick. So the hair material is just gonna be for these two. I'm gonna remove one input there and plug this guy here. So that's our hair. And now let's create this hair material. So let's select it. So reflection is gray, I believe is 0.5. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's 0.7. So a bit brighter. Okay. And as the transmission, I used this zombie skin V2 texture. So let's load that in. I'm gonna go texture RGB image, and I believe it's in here. 30. This is in V2, and I'm gonna plug this into the transmission, and here it is. And then what else? Index is 1.8 and roughness is 0.2. So index is 1.8 and roughness is 0.2. Okay, so hopefully we did this right. And let's move here to our beard. So I'm gonna connect the beard to pretty much all the other nodes, like so. And let's see what our beard material uses. So reflection is white. Okay. Transmission is the same texture, so we can, I believe, yes, it's the same texture, so we can just drag this guy here. And what else do we have? The index was 1.7 and roughness 0.2, so it's almost identical. Only a couple of parameters are different, but that's fine. So index is 1.7. Alright, so this should do. Let's see what point are we get. Okay. Alright, that should do. So let's plug in our beard blood. And here it is. It's white at the moment. So let's check what kind of material did I apply. It was a yes, it was a scattering material. So now I remember. So again, materials, diffuse. Let's call this blood. All right, and gonna plug this in here. So the diffuse is black, and then the transmission is gonna be a grayscale color set to 1, and in the medium we're gonna plug a scattering medium, and let's copy the parameters. So this is the RGB 0 to 1, so let's copy these attributes to our absorption color. 1 and 0.981, and this is 1. Okay, uncheck invert absorption, and then the scattering is 0.015. So let's change this from RGB to grayscale, and 0.015, and the density is 50. All right, yes, 50. And here it is. This is our kind of, I call it blood, but it's actually more kind of a like a nasty meaty things going on there on the beard, and there is a little bit here on the eyebrow here near to the damages. So this is done. So let's save, and let's see where we at. So we got our head setup done, our hair setup should be done. The eyes look a little bit dark for some reason, but I believe it's because there is no direct light shining into them yet. So let's go back here, and let's bring in the light. One last thing we want to do before is to plug in this hair in over the shirt. So let me just real quick, I'm gonna ungroup this node, and let's get this out of the way. Let's add one input, and this guy goes here. So here is the shirt hair, and now I can select them back and regroup them again. This was shirt. Alright, so for these guys I believe I used some specular material. I believe I forgot to rename it, so I'm just gonna have to improvise here, and I'm going to assign a specular material, and let's see if I can guess. I can go here. Yes, this was the object. Okay, so the RGB color is gonna be this guy. Wait, where is the RGB color go? In the, okay, that was not it. 0.2 is the reflection. That was the transmission. Okay, so the reflection is going to be 0.2, and the transmission is going to be this color here. So let's copy these values in here, these values in here, and these values in here, so we get the same color there. Now let's see, opacity is 0.5, roughness is 1, and index is 1.1. So opacity 0.5, roughness 1, and index 1.1. So roughness 1, index 1.1. Alright, so these should be done. And let's go back here. And now the last thing we will need to import is our lights and black boxes. So let me zoom back a little bit, like so. Okay, let's go back here. So black boxes, I'm going to drag the black boxes object here, and here in my group I'm going to add one input and connect this guy there. Here they are. These are my black boxes. So as you can see, by default the camera is using an autofocus that it's focusing on the center point. So because when I move the objects here in the center point of the of this window, there is nothing, it goes out of focus. If I move it in here, as you can see, it goes back to focus. Let's remove this feature. So I'm gonna go here in the render target, and if I click here in the camera, these are my attributes. So let's uncheck autofocus. So as soon as I uncheck the autofocus, the image gets out of focus. And so let's go to aperture here and set this to 0, so everything will be always in focus no matter what. And this is useful during the setup process. Then we're gonna set something for the final image. Now these black boxes and plane that I've imported, I use them to create some occlusion nearby my objects, nearby my head. So let's set a black material. So geometry, materials, diffuse. I'm gonna plug this guy here, and this is gonna be just a matte black like this. And now let's import our lights. If you remember, we had 3 lights. So we had light front, light side, and light back. So let's import these 3 objects. Okay, and again, for these guys I'm just gonna make another group. So geometry group, I'm gonna plug this guy here and add other 2 inputs. So I get front light, side light, and backlight, and I'm gonna connect this guy here. Now I'm gonna select them and group, and these are gonna be my lights group. Okay, and I'm gonna save. Now enter the light group, and let's start applying the materials for our lights, which are 1, 2, and the other one that's inside this box here that will create the main light on his face. So let's start with the front light. and let's copy the parameters from here. So for the emissive material, we need to create a diffuse material here. Let's plug it in. And here you can see there's emission. So let's choose black body. And now to be able to see, because we're still using a complete white background, let's go back to our scene and let's change that. So let's create an environment, texture environment node. We're going to plug this guy into the environment. So now from here we can go and click the color and drop it like that. So now the environment is completely black. So let's go back to our light, select this guy here, and let's rename this to light 1, and let's start tweaking the parameters. So okay, here we have it. So power is 250, distribution, texture of efficiency, and sampling, they're all to 1. Surface brightness and cast illumination are checked, and temperature is 5000. So let's do the same here. So texture, you can see, start already seeing something in there. Temperature is 5000, distribution 1, sampling is 1, and the power was 250. And we also need to check surface brightness. There we go, much better. So if we move the camera back to our characters, here it is, it's coming along, and now the eyes, they look fine. So let's actually duplicate this material. So I'm going to click Ctrl C and Ctrl V, and let's call this light 2, and I'm going to duplicate one more time, and this is going to be light 3. So I have these 3 light materials. Now I'm going to plug this light 2 to the light side, and let's see what parameters do I have here. So temperature is 4500. So select my light, temperature is 4500, and power is only 1. So 1, because I only want a little bit of side light here. And now let's select this light here, and this is actually this one is the same, I have to say, so I don't need light 3, I can delete it, and I can just plug light 2 here as well. So I think that's pretty similar. Okay, so let's check, let's render out this guy with a little bit higher resolution, and I think it looks already quite similar to the image that I had before. So let's change the resolution here, and to do that we're gonna click on render target and click on these icons here, and then let's set something like let's see what we had in Maya. I think it was 720p. Alright, something like that. And now, as you can see, my render area, now it's kind of big. I can, if I click Control and zoom in and zoom out, I can just zoom the window and not the camera. If I just move the mouse wheel, I will zoom the camera inside my rendering view. But if I just want to zoom the actual rendering window, I just press Control and then I can use the mouse wheel to zoom back and forward. And I also, with the left click, I can pan around like this. So let's put the camera closer, and I'm gonna let this guy render a little bit, and then we can compare the result to the one we did in Maya and see if we succeeded in replicating the same rendering. So let's see when this is finished. Let's see what we got. Alright, so I'm back, and I only added this camera node, and by doing right click cameras and thin lens camera, this is the equivalent of creating a new camera in Maya. So I plug the camera in the camera slot here in the render target, so I could go and set the same focal length parameters as the camera I had in Maya. So this is the final render in Octane Render Standalone, and I redid the same render here in Maya to compare them. So as you can see, if I switch between the two, they're very similar. For some reason it feels like the one in Maya it's slightly brighter, but that's something I need to investigate. But overall, I'd say that the two images are very close to each other, although there is one interesting thing. So if you look here, it says that to render 1000 samples, Standalone took 4 minutes 16 seconds on my single GTX 980, and the same render in Maya, 1000 sample, took nearly 7 minutes. So we have almost 3 minutes difference between Maya and the Standalone, and the reason it's because of the hair. So Maya is rendering the hair as polygons, so this is just geometry, while Octane Render Standalone is rendering the hair using its proprietary hair segments. So these are much lighter, either in memory and performance. So if I go here and look at the memory, you can see that I'm using slightly less than 1 gigabytes, while in Maya I'm using 1.3 gigabytes. So that's something also to keep in mind, and this is very interesting. So that's it. I think I'm pretty happy with the result. It's very similar between the two, and yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it as usual, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching the full video. If you want, you can support me on Patreon, subscribe to my channel, and make sure to watch my latest video and other videos in my playlist. See you the next time.